Well, we were living in Southern California, and we were interested in moving to the Northwest, and we're looking at areas to settle. I was talking with a law firm about associating with here in Vancouver, and the first time I landed here was in 1993. I was on a business trip to Seattle on my way back to Medford, and the opportunity presented itself to land here at Pearson and meet with these folks. And because the airport was here and provided the opportunity to have an airport close by, we moved here in 1995. Been here ever since.
I'm the airport manager, and I've been here since February 2008, so a little bit over 3 years. Well, my first lesson was when I was 12 years old. It was a birthday present from my father. We went to Little River Airport to get me this lesson, and I met the airport manager, and I really loved the lesson, but what I really took away from it was, man, I really want to be this guy when I grow up, be the airport manager. And I lucked out, and that's where I'm at now. There's two pathways to get into flying aircraft. The first one is you go down to the local airport and you go to the flight school and you start taking lessons, and you get a private pilot's license, an instrument, a commercial, and finally you can graduate into an airline transport. The other way is to go into the military, and again you start flying small airplanes in the military and graduate into either helicopters or jets, and then go into big aircraft if you want to.
Well, one of the airplanes that we actually teach people to fly in here is a Piper J5 Cub. So the whole goal when you kind of enroll in flight training is to get what we call your private pilot's license. And with your private pilot's license, you'll be certified to rent airplanes, fly airplanes, buy an airplane, and fly passengers around. That's kind of the whole goal for the training process. The FAA requires 40 hours of flight time to get your private pilot's license. The national average is right around 70 hours, so it tends to take a little bit longer than that.
First started flying when I was still in high school, 1967 in Southern California.
I love going to Idaho in my little airplane and fishing for 2 or 3 days, a couple of times a summer. I love going over to the coast in 30 minutes, landing on one of the many little strips along the Oregon coast, walking into town, getting lunch. In 1972, I came here from California to fly for the Forest Service. I did that for 3 months in Pendleton, Oregon, and then came straight to Pearson and flew bank checks. Prior to that job, I had a short stint carrying expired bodies, dead bodies in airplanes. That took us throughout the West, and that was an interesting job.
One of the values of Pearson Field Airport to the community, as well as any other small airport, is the use in emergency management situations. For instance, you can drop a whole lot of supplies into an airport where you couldn't normally do it in other locations. We have a big area of land to stage stuff, and Pearson Field was used for staging during the Mount St. Helens eruption. And we can land helicopters here, we can land airplanes in inclement weather and all periods of day or night. We have pipeline patrols that fly in and out of here daily. We have people that do mapping, other people who do aerial photography, organ tissue movement, people who fly blood around, as well as people who fly patients as volunteers.
I've carried medical patients that either can't afford or logistically can't get to a medical appointment.
And we have 150 T hangars for aircraft storage, as well as 12 tie downs for aircraft parked outside. The Pearson Field is a full-service airport. We have a flight school, major maintenance shop that can do full restorations, an avionics shop. We have fuel available. We have the only instrument approach in all of Clark County. We are the 14th largest in in Washington State out of 138 public use airports. We have roughly 50,000 air operations per year, which averages about 146 per day.
Pearson Field is kind of known for what we call airport bums, people who are so into airplanes that they kind of just hang out at the airport as much as they can. They have nothing better to do.
Well, having grown up with a father that learned to fly in 1926, I have a pretty strong feeling towards historic airplanes. I think that even though the industry is really little more than 100 years old, there's a lot to be learned from the airplanes that were designed early on in the century, the last century, and the pilots that flew those airplanes. We've lost some of that now. There have been some technological changes that have occurred.
During the 1930s, Tex Rankin had a flight school and an air show company. He is also credited with training the first Chinese-American female pilot. During World War II, this airport was used by the military as an observation squadron and also for flight training. One of the things that's very important here at Pearson Field is historic aircraft. We also cooperate with the Pearson Air Museum and the National Park Service Fort Vancouver Historic Site.
Here in Clark County, there are two airports that immediately come to mind. There's the old Clark County Aerodrome, which had a couple of fabulous businesses, aviation-based businesses that are no longer because the airport closed. There's also Evergreen Airport, which was just a fabulous airport as far as aviation history is concerned, and not the least of which was Wally Olson, the fellow that ran the airport. He's quite a local celebrity in the aviation business. I brought my nephew up from California to have his first flying lesson with Wally. He was that unusual. It's just a shame that those airports are no longer, both for educational reasons and also for the selfish reasons of those of us that love to fly there and just love the atmosphere of an old airport, the simplicity of it. The Clark County Airport and Evergreen Airport are both closed now. Evergreen succumbed to taxes, I understand. You can still see the old runway as you fly over it, which is a little tough sometimes. But taxes are a big reason. Residential development, industrial development, airports have become pretty prime property.
Well, when I came up here 5 years ago, this is not your average airplane. It's got a longer wingspan, and finding a hangar is real tough. This hangar became available here a year and a half ago, and I grabbed it. And it's the only one that'll take this airplane. So I live real close to the airport here, so it works out real great.
Once a year, I get together with 7 or 8 other pilots, most of them airline pilots, and we take our little old tail draggers out to the backcountry of Idaho and go exploring back there. Sometimes, like a couple Saturdays ago, I was standing here and a friend of mine pulls up in his car and says, "Got any plans?" "No." "Well, let's go to Lana's up at Hoquiam and have breakfast." Fine. So within 20 minutes, we had 4 airplanes together, all flying on up to Hoquiam, had breakfast there, came back, just had a real nice time.
But the love of airplanes is definitely in my blood. There's a lot of good camaraderie out here at the airport, and that's what makes flying unique. Plus the freedom of going anywhere, and when you can go places where you can't go. You can go places in a short time where you can't go in a car.
I love the job that I do now, which is aerial photography. The people that it leads me to, and the kinds of things that I do. It's great. It's just great. It beats working for a living.
I really like flying the small airplanes because there's a little more freedom. You can go and do sightseeing tours if you'd like to. You can fly here or there, and it's just an actual sense of freedom to do whatever you want to do.
Pilots are a social bunch, and we like to get together. There's group of us that gets together Saturday mornings for breakfast at a coffee shop down the road.
Currently, I believe Pearson Field is underutilized by businesses and by our neighborhoods and a general community.
There are people who want to do business in Vancouver and who need a convenient way to get in here.